struggled as a strike.
It was a lie. President never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
He struggled as a strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's a beautiful day, and of course, this is Global Morning on Global Television. As a matter of fact, it's a very wonderful day, and the reason why I said it's a wonderful day is because the weather predicted something differently, but then we are seeing something different. But the bottom line is that we're able to see this morning, and we can actually know that you are connected right now. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo, and of course, Michael Deacon is right here. Michael, when I saw you this morning, I was thinking, I said, hey, come on, I just landed in Nigeria.
I just landed from Borno State. I have to go and have a first-hand assessment of the flooding situation. Probably, I'm in the good direction.
Well, it's good
because it's very disturbing when you know that the level of rain is unpredictable. We can't really know which area may be a victim of the situations right now in the country, because there were already predictions by NIMET, and alerting that state government and government at their different states should begin to take responsibility by looking at the infrastructure of some of their dams, assessing their nature, combatment and all of that. But unfortunately, many persons did not pay attention to all of those details, and that's why flood is here, there and all of that, and we can't really know where a very serious disaster may happen again. So it's a way of also signaling that we must begin to pay attention to environment.
It's very important, and I think NIMET is also bringing a notice to Benue State and its environ that the dam in Cameroon will also be open soon. And I don't just want to recall the situation, how it has been in the past when that dam is actually opened. I know people who live very close to River Benue, and people who are in that axis in Makurdi, moving to Boko and other places. A lot of people have been displaced, before now. But I think now that NIMET have given the information, a proud information, something should be done. People that need to relocate should actually do that before the flooding comes. Like Michael said, no one knows the next place where this flooding will hit.
And we can't wait for any other state to be a victim of that situation. We should wait before we start taking actions.
All right, absolutely. Let's go on a quick break. When we return, it's going to be time for the newspaper review when we take you through the headlines for the day.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature
was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled with ASU strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It's time for us to take you through the major headlines for the day from the Nigeria dailies. I will do a review. And at the course of the review, a guest will be joining us to also do justice to some of the major headlines. But before then, we'll take you through the newspapers that we have right here. And as a matter of fact, Michael and I have already spoken about the flood. And apart from the flood, inflation is on the rise, and that's the first story that we'll be looking at from the Guardian newspaper on this beautiful Thursday morning. The kicker says inflation, low patronage hits online stores, malls amid 200% spike in prices. The details of that you can get on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Then more stories still coming on the way this morning. Bello remain wanted. EFCC insists lays siege to Kogi government large. Details read on page 3. The issue of Yaya Bello, a lot of things have been said. Some persons said the whole thing is becoming more like the usual drama. He was being declared wanted, and we heard that he was arrested. He's in custody, and after a while we heard another report again that he is still being declared wanted. But on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper this morning, it's been says he still remain wanted. So now on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper, this one says a PDP crisis, that's the kicker. Makinde backs embattled Damagum as governors. NWC plans sack, that is a National Working Committee of PDP planning a sack for Damagum. Details read on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Then more headlines still coming to you from the Guardian newspaper this morning, where I have the kicker of this story saying fuel scarcity. Then the story itself says tanker drivers cause traffic chaos on Oshodi Apapa Expressway. What do you expect? That axis is so thick. If you want to talk about traffic, there's a whole lot of traffic on that axis. But with this, when tankers are plying the road, the traffic seems to increase. I think that's exactly what's happening now, because moving from Sele Ijesha all the way down to Oshodi, that axis, if it is not managed very well, the traffic is always thick. All right, more headlines still coming from the Guardian newspaper this morning, where I have this story on page 5, which says Zulum warns emirs against illegal mining, insurgency risk. Details of that story is on page 5. Then this one says CSOs worry over Edo Guba election, condemn INEC's refusal to redeploy REC. I take that again. CSOs worry over Edo Guba election, condemn INEC's refusal to redeploy REC. Details read on page 29 of the Guardian newspaper. And the last one that I will be taking from the Guardian newspaper this morning, 2 more stories and I will be done. Over 21,000 apply for 7,000 QuickSec ad hoc jobs. That's to tell you of the number of people that are actually looking for job. This is ad hoc job, and you have this number applying, not minding how many people are actually needed. That's to tell you the high level of unemployment in the country.
Very worrisome, very worrisome. The statistics and the fact that we're trying to combat with issues of insecurity, we are trying to combat with issues of kidnapping, banditry, and then we are paying attention to what policies of government in terms of creating an enabling environment, for businesses to strive, so as to encourage some of those who probably can also venture into entrepreneurship. So these are the questions we are talking of. So when we look at the statistics of unemployment, we're also looking at what is the level of environment that government have created, what are the policies on ground, what are the level of taxes, taxations policies and all of that, what are the assessment capacity for soft loan for SMEs and all of that. So when you look at all of this, you see that we are still having a long way to go, because the truth of the matter is government can employ more than what they can. The private sector owns one of the highest, or the highest shareholders in terms of employment capacity. So there's a need to pay attention to the private community. There's a need for government to start doing things in creating environment that will enable a lot of businesses. So I feel it's what needs to be paid attention to.
I think it actually needs to be paid. Attention needs to be paid to that. Just like Michael said, the bulk of the assignment lies with the creation of an enabling environment, because businesses can't thrive when the environment is not conducive for investment, even though we're being made to understand that the president has actually gone ahead to warn investors in the midst of...
Well, we are deeply yet to see all of that materialize, because, it's almost 3 days since the president returned back, or 4 days now, and we're still keeping our eyes open, still keeping our ears as well, widely open as well, just to hear what the president, brought back from all of those visits to the country, because the moment where it is not materializing in the market, a common Nigerian will not understand the statistics quoted by Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, every statistics quoted by CBN and all of that. What the common Nigerian is interested now is going to the market to buy a loaf of bread at low as 500 naira as it used to be, going to the market to buy pepper at 100 naira as it used to be able to cook, where, I went to the market the other day and I was told that you can't buy pepper even at 200 naira. It was quite very worrisome. A community like Gary, community like Yam, that was the basic for every Nigerian. So this is all the statistics that many Nigerians want to see. So if you're creating an enabling environment, also look at how you can fight food inflation in the country. If the investors are coming in, let them also be able to produce, and let them be able to also have quite a good environment, and not policies of government that will continue to deter people from, closing down their businesses and leaving the country. So we must pay attention very closely to our policy, because I feel a policy determines how long and how much persons can come into the country to invest. This is what we should pay attention to.
I love that aspect where you talk about the fact that the only language the average Nigerian understands is now I can go to the market and come back with my cellophane filled up
with 5,000 naira.
5,000 naira.
As it used to be.
Unlike now that if you go to the market with 5,000 naira, you come back angry. A lot of people return from the market angry these days.
My guest yesterday on Big Talk said, have you seen the level of accident on the road? I said, yes, it's quite very so. It's people are frustrated. Yes. That people are depressed. A whole lot of people that you see on the street walking, do not know where their next meal is coming from. And all of this is also posing a whole lot of threats, because an hungry man probably may also find what to be able to engage with in order to eat. An hungry man may also look at the fact that I'm hungry, so I must begin to pay attention to where I can get my next meal. So these are the question, and this is where our attention is, because when you look at the fact that people are saying I'm hungry, it's not just about the comment they are making. It's about that there might be a follow-up steps, to their words, and which is very dangerous.
Michael, can I tell you something? As it is right now, apart from I am hungry, when you say you are hungry, when someone is hungry, the next line of action is, what do I eat next? What do I do to get what to eat? And that brings in social vices. It is what insecurity, as the case may be. So before now, they will tell you, well, if you're driving on the road, you need to know that you are the only sane person, because the person coming in your front, you don't know the state of that person. I'm just trying to refer to what your guest said yesterday, because now if you're walking on the road, you just have to be careful. Just walking, not driving this time, because the person coming in front of you may be frustrated. The person may be thinking of something negative.
Must pay attention to.
All right, finally, before we move from the Guardian newspaper, the last headline is about Borno State, where on page 30 we have this story which says donations for Borno flood victims hit 11 billion naira, Michael. 11 billion naira. So the question now is, how is this money going to be utilized? Because some unscrupulous elements and some persons may want to divert these funds. I think this is the right time for the government to set up committees to monitor how this money is being disbursed. Who gets this money? People at the IDP camp, what do they need? We heard that the government is trying to get chemicals to disinfect the place where environmental hazards have already happened because of the flooding in Borno State. But now 11 billion naira already realized, and many more still coming, because I heard this morning that there is a call for more donations for the people who are being displaced, because the disaster is so
it's not just about donation. What we are paying attention is the fact that first, there were instances where the government were warned about the danger of that dam, but they didn't pay attention to that. So look at the responsibility of the government as well. I also understand that on the part of the people, you were told that, situation like this probably may happen, start leaving the community and all of that, but probably they didn't also believe, that nature would take a course. But in a way, in a managing situation like a very sad disaster like this, because, look at the number of properties we've lost, and look at the lives we've lost. 11 billion can be able to pay back those, family members have lost their loved one and all of that. But we are concerned about the aftermath of the situation. Look at 11 billion now, but I'll tell you that what you are seeing on the cameras is just where they buy food go to the IDP camps just for camouflage and all of that. But we're saying, what can they do more than that? The IDP camp in Borno State is already overcrowded. Has there been urgent move by the government by understanding the fact that crowding, allowing these persons to still be on this crowded environment is also posing a lot of health hazard and a health challenge, because cholera is real. So the moment where people are still clustering in a particular environment is also a danger. Have they urgently have to pay attention to fixing another IDP camp? But we can't really say what we are hearing is about donation. But what are the steps taken, bold steps, to combat the situation? The people that have lost their properties, have they started an enrollment? We've seen fake people. The other day we read on the airline where we've seen fake people going into the IDP camps as well, just to be able to claim. So I know it's a big job for them, but I think this is an humanitarian aspect where government must come approach this issue with clean hands, with a very sincere hand. It's not a time for politicians to start embezzlement, because we are afraid that every issue in this country, as long as it's government funded, as long as it's government or under government control, is always manipulative. Because at the end of the day, the right people will not benefit from what these international donations was meant for. So that's the situation I'm having. A very difficult one.
All right, thank you very much, Michael. I actually understand your concern, and your concern is so key, because we've had situations like this in the past where these things are just on paper. We hear these figures. How are you even sure this is all that has been realized so far? These are the kind of things we talk about. If there is an assignment given to anyone, there should also, with every responsibility, there should be accountability. Let's get to the next point of call, Michael.
All right, let's get to New Telegraph this morning. Big story from New Telegraph paper. As it at Borno flood, FG deploys experts to test water. Others. Right up to that story, sends 100 drums of chlorine to disinfect water source. 30,000 flyers to sanitize public base sanitation hygiene practices. Mrs. Tinubu donate 500 million to victim. This is the situation again. They have actually employed or deployed, or any language you want to use, by experts to begin to test water. Another room for embezzlement. They've asked them to start printing flyers, over 30,000 flyers, to start sanitize the people and know what hygiene is. Another embezzlement room. They've also created, 100 drums of chlorine to disinfect water stores. Yeah. Another room for embezzlement. Yeah, it's good, but these are the situations. Are you going to sanitize, the sensitization program at the moment where people are crying, at the moment where people have lost their properties?
How many people will even pay attention?
We understand that language now. What the common man right in Borno State is after is about that, this thing already happened. But this is where government are building houses for us. This is where government are saying, we've started your enrollment processes to be able to pay you back of the property you've lost. This is just the attention to that. But it's always Nigeria, and our heart will always go with the people that may be victim of this situation. But government must also pay attention and do the things right. Now we also have power. FG unveils advanced data tech for national grid. FDIs. Nigeria tipped to benefit as U.S. cut interest rate by 0.5%. Also have on page 4 of the New Telegraph, Samuel Nasu threatened independent strike, issued 3-week ultimatum. A very warning, big alert coming there for our educational sector. Another trait again where we felt, we can't handle the issues of strike in the universities again, but it's also a wake-up call for the Ministry of Education to be up and doing in terms of their negotiation. Also have still on the New Telegraph, Abuja heads tremor, not threat to environment. NGOs reassures. And that's on page 6. Tinubu Sanwo-Olu, others felicited Lagos Deputy Governor at 60. Congratulations, Your Excellency. Edo Goba now begins airlift of poll materials. PDP alleges APC arming talks with fake police, military uniforms, weapons. As Obi orders tax security agencies, INEC on credible poll. You can read that story on page 246. Issues of the day election It's already 2 days to go for the elections. The tension is still quite very high, but it looks like the people are actually, very much interested about the credible election. Of course, the umpire for that election is still the INEC, and those to be able to, encourage some of these implementation of what INEC has is the security agencies by way of defending the ballot boxes, the polling unit, and making sure that people do not take advantage of the situation. So our eyes is still on the door elections, and that's concern right there. Labour Party wrap up their campaign just yesterday. Obi of Labour Party and others were there. These are one of the focus of the elections. Labour Party is a focus, APC is a focus, PDP is a focus, and all the 15 political parties that are also contesting this election. Of course, we're still keeping our eyes very close. Terror financing, be wary of generosity and possess compassion others. Geba warns. You can get a New Telegraph paper from the vendor so as to get more details on that. Over to you, Ramson.
All right, thank you very much, Michael, for those headlines. Those were actually punchy headlines. And we'll get to the next paper, and our next point of call will be the Nation's newspaper. On the Nation's newspaper this morning, we have a lot of headlines, and I will be getting started with the big story on the Nation's newspaper this morning. On the Nation's newspaper, there is this story that actually catches my fancy, and while I was going through the papers, something came to my mind, and that's the fact that so many people believe that the things happening now, you have to be the special advisor of yourself, because everyone is facing one challenge or the other. Look at what is happening in Edo State. Look at what is happening in PDP and other parties. From the Nation's newspaper this morning, I have this one which says PDP governor split over bid for SAC party chairman Damagu. That is so worrisome because a house divided itself, it can actually hardly stand. Then this one says Abure, who begged us for tickets, now fighting us. Abure is saying those who begged us to get tickets are fighting us.
Well, the true honors of the party are also taking consideration of the fact that Abure, your time was up, and the moment where your time was up, as an Irish man, you ought to accept, and understand the provisions of the constitution. So, I mean, Abure has actually put himself here because to many Nigerians and people who supported the Labour Party, Abure was one of those, that were, leading the front for Peter Obi. We call Apapa, that was putting a whole lot of distraction, the factional chairman as well. People, many Nigerians and many Labour Party obedient movement, were standing with, Abure just because against Apapa. But unfortunately, Abure now became, the highest of the gods in the Labour Party. But unfortunately, the courts, the law and the constitutions have caught up with that and have addressed the situation. And we're seeing reactions everywhere on that.
All right, some more headlines still coming from the Nation's newspaper this morning. And I think what's happening in Labour Party, not just Labour Party, but all the parties, is a sign that a lot needs to be done against 2027.
We must get internal democracy right. Party affairs is important because we're not doing single candidacy in Nigeria where anybody can contest at will. But everything passes through the political party. We must fix a political party. A political party must understand that the candidate they also produce, has a way of, leading to the enhancement of Nigeria's democracy. So we must begin to pay attention to the internal politics, and wrangling within, the party affairs. We've seen the People's Democratic Party right now are facing their zone squarely. Labour Party are also trying to get things right. Every other political parties are up and doing. So, where there's a need to start paying attention to what the parties are doing, because that determines who rules at the face of the governor, at the level of the president, senator, House of Assembly members, and whatnot.
All right, more details you can get on the Nation's newspaper, and more headlines still coming from the Nation's newspaper this morning. where this one says above the nameplate, tremor, sense of fear, panic to Abuja residents. And this one says a U.S. agency OK's brain aid chief to restore vision. Details it's on page 8. A governor sends diverted palliative to EFCC ICPC. I don't know what that means. Governor sent diverted palliative to EFCC ICPC. If you want to know what it's all about, pick a copy of the nation's newspaper. Edo 2024, that's the kicker. Then the story says issues to determine outcome are local. The issues to determine the outcome are local. And this one, 80.2 billion naira probe. Yahaya Bello, EFCC in hide and seek. Well, it has been on the papers since yesterday. Then, two riders to that story. Ex-governor shows up at agency's office with Ododo, and 153 days after, this is 153 days after his surfacing. Then the second rider to that story says, operatives surround governor's lodge. And as a matter of fact, more headlines coming from the nation's newspaper. This one says a marking day to deliver 41 billion naira Ibadan airport upgrade next year. It is on page 7 of the nation's newspaper. Stay clear of Edo election. CDS wants troublemakers. Who are the troublemakers? If you know who the troublemakers are, I think the earlier the better, because at the end of the day you will hear that I don't know, but then people who are, maybe should I call them unfortunate, might be the ones to suffer the heat of this election if anything breaks out, because sometimes people like this may be enmarked for violence, as the case may be, which is not supposed to, because election is supposed to be free and fair. We don't want to have situations of election being inconclusive this time. Just one rider to that story. Military has presidential mandate to ensure free poll. And finally, from the nation's newspaper this morning, this one says Nigeria to become leading hub in $9.7 trillion halal global market, says Shetima. That's coming from the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And that's going to be the size of the headlines from the nation's newspaper as we go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return, and it's going to be time for us to bring you more headlines as we have our guest join us on Global Morning.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, as to strike.
The Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled, as to
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It is the Global Morning on Global Television on this beautiful Thursday morning. And of course, we're still bringing you to speed with the headlines for the day. And we've looked at a few headlines looking at what is happening in Nigeria. As a matter of fact, if you're not informed, you are deformed. And that's the need for bringing you to speed with the major headlines for the day. And joining me on the conversation this morning to throw light and do a little analysis on the big stories from the dailies this morning is Agada Noah. He is a public affairs analyst and the Secretary General of the National Association of Polytechnic Students. It's good to have you this morning. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Well, so much happening in Nigeria right now, and we've looked at a few headlines, but then let's quickly look at what is happening from the Punch newspaper. And the big story from the Punch newspaper this morning is talking about the issue of Edo poll. The kicker says Edo poll. Then the big story says INEC deploys 5,000 beavers, 18,000 ad hoc workers. And we have just one right into that story which says APC, a Labour Party tackle PDP over Obaseke's 1 billion naira grant to market women. NAF aircraft arrive Edo with sensitive materials. And more still coming from the Punch newspaper this morning. Above the nameplate I have this headline which says Tinubu may merge MDAs, scrap humanitarian ministry. We've heard so much about this scrapping and this merger before now. And this statement is still coming as a probability. May, that's what it means. All right, the scrapping of humanitarian ministry and other MDAs. A lot of people actually reacted to this when the president first came into office and this statement was being made. As it is, some persons said scrapping these ministries and MDAs will result to more people losing their job, even though we have a lot of people already on ground who are jobless. And if this is done, it's going to cause a whole lot. Details read on page 2. Our guest will be reacting to some of these stories much later. This one says PDP NWC members plus Damagus remover. PDP National Working Committee members plot Damagus removal. Details read on page 14. Then still above the nameplate, Cameroon Dam, that's the kicker. States plan emergency shelter. All right, states plan emergency shelter. I think this is what we're talking about. If this was actually done, if proactive measures were actually put in place, what happened in Borno State wouldn't have been this disastrous. Maybe the effect wouldn't have been this much. It's so good that after the warning that came about the Cameroon Dam, states are already planning emergency shelter. Then this one says Yaya Bello, that's the kicker. EFCC besiege Kogi Governor's Lodge. Details read on page 12. Then more stories still coming from the Punch newspaper this morning, and this one says World Bank to grant Nigeria a $1.7 billion loan. That's the report coming to us this morning from the Punch newspaper. Then this one says LASG records 300 domestic violence cases monthly. Domestic violence cases, private employers paying below 70,000 naira risk jail. Federal government, I think this is what's talking about. Okay, this is what's talking about. So many times when Nigerians hear about the fact that NLC is going on strike, there is this belief that this strike action is mostly for people who are government employees. Now, the minimum wage, 70,000 naira minimum wage, has been agreed. Consensus has been reached between Labour and, of course, the federal government. Now, on the papers this morning, Comrade Agara, it's been said that private employers paying below 70,000 naira risk jail. That's coming from the federal government. Do you see this coming as a reality, or is still going to be that kind of statement that is only on papers? Most times we hear of things on papers, but then the actualization of it is what the problem is.
Let me just assume the fact that it's just a statement yet, because the government have said they have settled down for the 70,000 minimum wage, which they say is starting in September. So let us see the implementation of the law from the government as is before we now extend it to the private individuals. Okay. Because the principal or the major purpose of an employer is to maximize profit. The government is to provide social services. So the government, which is responsible for the social welfare of its citizens and have given the benchmark of 70,000, should first of all start. Charity at least begins at home. So he who seeks equity should come with clean hands. The federal government should start with the 70,000 minimum wage they have proposed first before we extend punishment to private individuals.
Okay, let's quickly look at what is happening in Edo State, the governorship election. The people that have been appointed to do this, we heard of beavers. A lot of Nigerians now, when you talk about beavers, they will tell you, does beavers really work? Because of the situation in 2023 election, the situations that came up in 2023 elections. Looking at the Edo gubernatorial election, it's becoming more like a presidential election. Now, as it were, what do you think about the election? Looking at PDP, Labour Party, yesterday it was massive. The campaign, you can see that the big guns are in Edo State right now. So what are you envisaging from the election in Edo State come this weekend?
Edo State election is an off-season election, and it calls for serious attention. We are not surprised that it's coming up like this. Every party wants to lay hold of a state, even those who are still struggling to even have local government representatives. But when it is political time like this, everybody tries to mobilize interest, persons, big wings, and cabals to a particular region. But after the election, we will now know who are really on ground. You see, campaigns do not really dictate winnership, or campaigns do not really show direction of who is going to win. It's all about strategy. And I know election has always been a talk of the town whenever it comes up because of its peculiarity and tendencies. I believe the outcome of the election will be favorable to all concerned. The INEC will give them the benefit of doubt and ensure that they also do the needful as at when due. We are so confident in the INEC that they are to do the best they can in the Edo election, because all eyes are on them. The Edo election, we believe, would also be a case study in the Nigerian political landscape.
All right, thank you very much. So many things are still happening. Talking about the flooding, the Cameroon Dam. Remember, the issue we are having right now, as it has to do with the flooding in Borno State, is as a result. What we heard is that a dam overflooded.
Yes.
And that incident, that disaster is massive. This morning we heard on one of the papers that 11 billion naira has been realized already because people are making donations.
Yes.
Now, the Cameroon Dam, which is also being opened almost yearly this season, there was a report that it's going to be opened soon, and we heard that states are taking measures already. What does that speak to you? What's your thought about that situation? Because sometimes these things happen, and what is supposed to be done is not being done. That's the reason we have these issues oftentimes. If measures were actually taken, maybe we can say it's a disastrous situation and it's an ecological problem. But then, if some measures were taken, the effect of the flooding in Borno State wouldn't have been this massive. I don't know if you are of the same school of thought. So what do you think about the fact that this warning came and the state is putting up measures? What do you think? What do you think the state should do? Because just telling us that emergency measures are also already being taken. What are the measures and what do you think the state should do to avert the situation?
I think the states are not really helping matter, especially even at the federal level. I think the economic planners or the national economic planners, the state economic planners are no longer doing the economic needs of the society. They're only interested, when they say economic planning, they're only interested in the financial or the monetary aspect. I think this issue of Borno flooding is a major economic problem that needs to be addressed, not on emergency purpose, not an emergency ground. At least they have been focused, they have been warning. Is it that the federal government or the economic committee lacks enforcement for this purpose? Year in, year out, the government try to put emergency measures to flooding. Why must it be emergency measures? Why don't the federal government and the state government who are prone to this flood, the flood-prone areas, come together to seek for a long-time solution? Why must it be emergency? Is it that the people at the helm of affair, those who are now interested in the disaster to occur before they put emergency purpose, emergency plans, emergency measures? I think that is also an act of corruption. Because when you know something is coming to happen and you refuse to provide a solution and with the lives of citizens and lives and properties entrusted in your care, you let it perish and you say you put emergency measure. I think that is the carelessness and the height of it in people in governance. Because the constitution that they swear to take or undertake is to protect the lives and properties of the citizens. So why is it that when the lives and properties are danger or submerging into a national disaster that they take emergency precautions? So I think the government needs to brace up on this issue, especially when it comes to this flooding, because I feel some persons are just sitting down praying that it happens, then they bring up emergency measures. You know, when it comes as emergency, they start bringing supplementary budgets and supplementary procurements, which are all on the fire brigade approach. So I think it is not the best for the government who wants to be economically viable, because lots have been destroyed in Maiduguri. So now other states that are on the flood-prone area are now being affected. How much is going down the drain if measures are not taken year in, year out? So I think the government should brace up to come up with possible long-term solution to this problem.
All right, thank you very much. Let's quickly look at the Nigerian Tribune. A little review from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Edo election, that's the kicker. PDP APC in final showdown. It is read on page 3. Then this one says federal government policy somersault responsibility for petrol price war between Dangote and NNPCL. This is coming from the Labour president. NLC president is the one saying this. Federal government's policy somersault responsible for petrol price war between Dangote and NNPCL. The war between NNPCL and Dangote refinery. Do you think it's necessary? Because as it is, Nigerians are the ones facing the heat of this fight, whatever it is. But now, NLC president, sometimes statements are being made, and we look into these statements to see if there are facts in it. Federal government policy somersault, he said, is responsible for petrol price war. He's referring to it as war. Some persons call it saga. Some persons call it disagreement. I don't know what you call it, but then, what do you think about this?
The issue of Dangote and NNPC is even confusing to me, because I don't see reasons why NNPC should now be descending so low to be a vendor to a private refinery when they have 4 refineries that are lying doing nothing. Why can't NNPC just swallow their pride, hide their shame, and go back to the drawing board? If the 4 refineries that Nigeria have are working, why should I be discussing with Dangote? Besides, we are in a country that Dangote has every right to own a refinery. But why is it that NNPC, the federal government, are so interested in Dangote regulation of price? We know that the Petroleum Act states that the owner or the owner of the refinery or the producer have a right, in conjunction with a gentleman agreement with the NNPC or the federal government, to fix price. But if Dangote decides to fix fuel price at 200, why should NNPC be so interested in how much? Besides, a local refinery that is producing fuel in Nigeria will now be selling at almost parity with when the petroleum product is imported to the country. I think there is no transparency in price in there.
Is it even proper in the first place?
That is where
government to actually dictate the price.
That is why I said
it's political.
That is why I said the NNPC should hide their head in shame for even descending so low to be at the table to discuss prices, when Dangote should be learning or fixing price according to how NNPC produce from their own refinery.
Meaning you're trying to say he's taking, Dangote should take you from NNPC by fixing the price himself, because he said the federal government has the prerogative to determine the price.
No, then what is the essence of sole proprietorship or ownership of business? If when you own a business as a private individual, the government regulates your price. But even as a dad, the government regulates your price. Why is it only in petroleum products? Why is the government not regulating prices of foodstuff? Why is the government not regulating prices of transportation? Why is the government not regulating prices of several products which are of essence to the common Nigerians?
Hold your thought for a minute. We'll return. Right now, we will go on a quick break. After this break, we'll return and we'll continue with the newspaper headline. And you don't have to go away, because the AM News is coming next with Edikan Michael.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rate as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call a police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from.
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggled with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
Hello and welcome to all the viewers to AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Medican Michael. A quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365 and free to air on Nicomsat. The Nigerian Geological Survey Agency has allayed fears over earth tremors experienced in the Federal Capital Territory, urging residents not to panic. A statement by the Nigerian Geological Survey Agency Director General Professor Olesherin Ige disclosed that the agency monitored the tremors and found them to be low and do not pose any threats to the environment. He reported that approximately 48 separate earthquake events have been recorded, with both intensity and frequency increasing between Friday, September 13th to Monday, September 16th. Chairman of Imo State Independent Electoral Commission Charles Ejiogo has expressed the Commission's readiness to conduct Saturday's 21st local government election in the state. Amachi Ibe completes the report.
However, residents of the state have mixed feelings over the planned Saturday local government election.
Today we have commenced a very critical component of this process, and that is validation candidates.
The people of the state are rejoicing that after more than 6 years of not conducting local government elections in Nigeria,
ISEC has verified the candidates out of the 17 political parties that are contesting. So the election is now ready and the atmosphere is charged.
To me, there is no much awareness concerning this local government election, so far as I'm concerned. If you go down to rural area, most people don't know that there will be election.
APC will going to clean the whole local government. When APC cleans the whole state, the 27 local government of House of Assembly, that same thing will repeat itself.
Finally, power will gradually return to the people in few days to come. Amarachi Ibe, Global TV News.
The federal government has alerted Nigerians to the water release from Lagdo Dam in Cameroon. Government made this known in a press statement signed by the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, Umar Mohammed. The statement noted that the authorities of the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon will initiate controlled water releases starting from Tuesday, September 17, 2024. Away from that, statistics obtained from the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention have shown that more males are getting infected with Mpox in Nigeria. According to the figures posted on NCDC website, 67% of the Mpox cases recorded since January 2024 have been in males. The agency said men are predominantly affected, accounting for approximately 70% of 6,001 suspected and confirmed Mpox cases recorded in Nigeria since September 2017, when the first confirmed cases occurred. The federal government has so far deployed 100 drums of 40 kg chlorine to Borno State to disinfect water sources following the devastating flood, with plans to deploy more in the coming days. The announcement was contained in a statement by Balarabe Lawal, Minister of Environment. These move aim at ensuring safe drinking water and preventing the spread of waterborne diseases such as cholera, which is a part of a broader response by the Federal Ministry of Environment to mitigate the environmental and public health risks posed by the disaster. Meanwhile, Kwara State Government has urged residents of the state to take seriously the various flood alerts, enlightenment and precautionary measures already done by the government and traditional institutions. The State Commissioner for Communication, Bola Olokoji, in a statement says various agencies of government have conducted several public enlightenment programs on flooding and how to mitigate its impact in areas that are prone to it. The statement said the state government will continue to lend its voice to calls for the dredging of the river Niger, which is the permanent solution to the perennial flooding in that axis. Now, the Medical and Dental Consultants Council of Nigeria has called on the federal government to immediately withdraw the controversial circular it claims discriminate against healthcare workers by denying them their lawful leave of absence. In a communique issued after its National Executive Council meeting, the Medical and Dental Consultant Association of Nigeria expressed displeasure over the government's new policy, which it described as violation of civil service rules. The communique signed by the Council President Professor Hamid Mohammed and Secretary Professor Dayoba Ibrahim emphasized that the circular contradicts established civil service regulations. The policy allegedly forces doctors and other healthcare professionals to resign from their positions instead of granting them leave of absence as prescribed by law. You're watching AM News on Global Television, coming to you live from Nigeria's capital. When AM News returns, Russia region orders evacuation after Ukraine drone attack. Details of these and more after this break. Please stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us at AM News. And now to business. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has officially approved the transfer of regulatory oversight of the electricity market in Kogi to the Kogi State Electricity Regulatory Commission. And this development followed the compliance of the state government with the stipulations outlined in the amended Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the Electricity Act 2023 as amended. In a statement on its official X handle, the Commission highlighted the legal basis for these decisions. ELEC retains its role as a central regulator overseeing interstate and international electricity generation, transmission, supply, and trading activities. Around 3 major oil marketers are expecting vessels of imported premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, this week, barring any unforeseen circumstance. The dealer says about 141 million liters of PMS are being conveyed to Nigeria by the vessels following the fuel deregulation of the downstream oil sector by the federal government. They also noted that the recent hike in the pump prices of petrol produced by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery and released by the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited had allowed room for PMS import. The Naira lost more than 100 Naira against the US dollar had official window despite the slower headline inflation rate in August. Data from the Nigerian Autonomous Foreign Exchange Market highlighted that the local currency was sold at 1,656 Naira to a dollar, higher than the 1,546 Naira to a dollar recorded on Monday. However, in the power market, the Naira appreciated by 5 Naira, trading at 1,660 Naira to a dollar compared to the previous rate of 1,665 Naira to a dollar. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, plans to broaden the application of the digital currency INARA to enable payment into the government account and allow ministers, department, and agencies MDS to process vendor and beneficiary payment. CBN's newly released Monetary Credit, Foreign Trade and Exchange Policy Guidelines for fiscal years 2024 to 2025 says the development is part of the Apex Bank's continued effort to enhance the adoption of INARA in both the public and private sector. An EU court described the 1.49 billion euro fine imposed by the Brussels against Google over the abuse of dominance in an online advertising. The Luxembourg-based court says in statements the institutions committed errors in its assessment. Brussels failed to take into consideration all the relevant circumstances in the assessment of the duration of the contract clauses that the Commission had deemed abusive, the court says. The Commission, which is the EU's influential competition regulator, said it takes note and will carefully study the judgment and reflect on possible next steps. And now, the federal government, through the Ministry of Housing and Urban Development, has announced a landmark partnership with the Central Association of Agricultural Valuers, a UK-based body specializing in agricultural and rural land valuation, to review and update Nigeria's compensation rate for public land acquisition. The announcement, contained in a statement on the official ministry's website, was made during the Knowledge Exchange program held in London on September 15, 2024. This collaboration aims to modernize the outdated compensation framework with a focus on crops and economic trees, which has been in place since 2008. On the foreign scene, hundreds of pagers used by the Hezbollah members exploded across Lebanon, killing at least 9 people and wounding around 2,800 in blasts the Iran-backed militant group blamed on Israel. There was no immediate comment from the Israeli military on the wave of explosions, which came just hours after Israel announced it was bordering the aims of the war sparked by Hamas' October 7 attacks, to include the fight against the Hezbollah along the country's border with Lebanon. It added that about 2,800 people were injured and about 200 of them critically. Elon Musk's brain chip startup Neuralink has received the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's breakthrough device designation for the company's experimental implant and a blind sight. The device, called the blind sight, is designed to restore vision in individuals with complete and partial blindness, including those with non-functional optic nerves. According to Reuters, the FDA awards its breakthrough designation to medical devices that treat or diagnose life-threatening conditions, expediting the development and review. The local governor stated that a partial evacuation has been ordered in Russia's region after a massive Ukraine drone attack sparked a fire there. Local Governor Igor Radunya says the emergency services in the town of Tripet were trying to localize the blaze caused by the falling drone wreckage. It did not say whether there were any casualties. Meanwhile, unverified footage has emerged purportedly showing a massive blast in the town. A video footage circulating on social media showed detonations and the smoke covering a large stretch of the sky. The FBI and the U.S. Postal Department are investigating suspicious packages received by election officials in 17 states. The federal investigators said they were collecting the packages and that some contain an unknown substance, although there were no reports of injuries. They were sent to secretaries of state and state election officials across the swathe of the country, from New York to Alaska. More than 50 people have been arrested as part of the major international investigation which dismantled an encrypted communication platform. The platform, known as Ghost, was used to facilitate a wide range of criminal activities, including a large-scale drug trafficking, money laundering, instances of extreme violence, and other forms of serious organized crime. The Aerol and agents, together with international law enforcement, worked together to carry out the operation. Over the course of the investigation, 51 suspects were arrested, including 38 in Australia, 11 in Ireland, and 1 in Canada, and 1 in Italy, belonging to the Italian Secret Corona, a United Mafia group. And out of sports, the intense rivalry between Africa's top table tennis nations, Nigeria and Egypt, will be reignited at the 2024 African Championship in the Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, from October 12 to 19. serving as qualifiers for the 2024 ITTF Mixed Team Cup in China and the 2025 World Championship in Qatar. The tournament will feature top teams and regional champions competing in 2 team events and 5 individual events, which are men's team, women's team, men's singles, men doubles, women's doubles, and mixed doubles. And number 1 sport, right-hand batter and African Games bronze medalist Pieti Loki, who captained Nigeria's under-19 girls as they travel to Rwanda for the 2025 ICC Under-19 Women's Cricket World Cup qualifiers. The Nigeria Cricket Federation announced the 14-player roster for the rescheduled qualifiers, which will be played from September 22nd to 29 in Kigali, Rwanda. Captain Pieti is joined by some of the female yellow-green stars like Superbar Peculiar Boya, and the teenage sensation Shola Adekunle, Lilian Uday, and Christabel Chikwenye. Italian icon Salvatore Schillaci, the top scorer at the 1990 World Cup, has died at age 59. Schillaci, better known as Toto, scored 6 goals to win the Golden Boot at 1990 World Cup on home soil. Italy lost in the semi-finals, but Schillaci was also awarded the Golden Ball as the best player and gained hero status. Schillaci was diagnosed with colon cancer in 2022. He capped 16 times for his country, scoring 7 goals. He represented Italian giants Juventus and Inter Milan after beginning his club career at Messina. As we wrap up M News, let's take a look at the top stories. The federal government has alerted 11 states as Cameroon plans the Lagdo Dam release. Imo State Independent Electoral Commission has expressed readiness to conduct local government polls. Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention has reported higher mpox infection among males in Nigeria. Other business, federal government has announced the partnership with UK agencies to review compensation rate for public land acquisition in Nigeria. And that's a package on M News coming to you live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We are on DSTV channel 365, start times 276, free to air on Nicomsat. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @Global TV NG and other handles now shown on the screen. I'm Dika Mike. Thanks for watching, and very shortly the conversation continues on the morning show. Just stay with us.
Welcome to Global Morning.
The death toll from flooding.
Most time our politicians just bring in policies too, for sure.
Incidentally, we have several more stories.
The legislature was carefully crafted to
22.2% inflation rates as of April this year. What does that say about where we are as a country?
I think Nigeria has resorted to being resilient.
Before you call the police station, before they even leave, they'll take permission from
I don't think there's really anything on ground to improve.
We struggle with ASU
The
strike.
Minister of Education volunteered and said, give me 2 weeks.
It was a lie. The president never gave me any deadline.
It is the Global Morning live on your screen from the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, Nigeria. And of course, a special welcome from the AM News by Deacon Michael. Now we are taking you straight to the headlines for the day. Before we went on that break to pave way for the news, we're talking about so many things happening in Nigeria. We talked about the rift, the war between NNPCL and, of course, Dangote Refinery, and for the fact that the pricing the Nigerians were expecting, it's not what they got. And with me on the newspaper review this morning is Agada Noah. He is a public affairs analyst and the National Secretary of the National Association of Polytechnic Students. And once again, it's good to have you.
Thank you
let's
very
quickly
much.
get to the Daily Trust newspaper and look at some of the major headlines for the day, beginning from this one, which says CBN to now charge cybercrime levy at 0.005% in new guidelines. Then this one says demography positions Nigeria to lead $7.7 trillion halal market. Details read on page 4, and that's coming from the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Then this one says tackle illegal mining before it turns to insurgency. Zulum tells emirs. Okay, tackle illegal mining before it turns to insurgency. Zulum tells emir. This is a warning, and this is an advice, not a warning per se, but I look at this as an advice coming from Zulum. And if this is being said, then there is something somewhere that is going on. And you remember how this insurgency started gradually. We heard, in fact, at a point in time, they made it political, that probably the government in power is being fought by this insurgency, using insurgency to fight the government in power. But as it is, this thing has escalated, and this is where we found ourselves today. Now, this warning is coming. This advice, let me call it a form of advice coming from Zulum, and you know the pedigree of Zulum, you know who he is. And as it is right now, it's a tackle illegal mining. Who are the people involved in this illegal mining? These are the things we should look at. So looking at this statement, does this statement ring bell, or it is still one of those political statements? Because everything, almost everything that happens in this country, now people link it to politics.
Sure.
So what do you think about this statement? Is it timely? Or you feel it's not necessary?
Whether it is a warning or an advice, that means there is something happening. So there must be a high presence of illegal mining that is happening in that particular place before it is coming as an advice or a warning. For a governor like Zulum to come out openly to tell emirs to tackle such situation, you should know that he is not coming out just to talk or just because he wants to talk. He has seen, he knows, and he is aware that there is illegal mining going on. But I don't think as a governor, the emir should be the one to take the responsibility of tackling illegal mining when he is the governor. He has every apparatus at his disposal to use in tackling illegal mining. He's the chief security officer of that state. So if I may think he's advising the emir, but if he's warning, that means that's not, it's not right, because he's the number one citizen.
He is supposed to work with the emirs, talk to the emirs, because it might be happening in their community. And the best way to tackle communal situations, okay, is to get to the people at the grassroots. Don't you think he's reaching out or speaking to the emirs because he felt they are the ones, all right, that are right in the community where this mining is being done? Then you begin to think of what it is. What is the natural resource that is being mined? So don't you think he's actually saying that because he feels the community is under the jurisdiction of the emirs?
In as much as the community is under the jurisdiction of the emir, he is the superior, not a subordinate in this situation. As the number one citizen of the state, He has every apparatus, including legislations, to curb such irregularity in the society. I think maybe as a leader or as a true leader that he is, he uses consultative method of leadership. But in as much as that, of issues of this magnitude, illegal mining is not, it should not be taken with kid gloves. It's a serious issue. So I think he should be proactive and take serious measures rather than advising or warning, or unless we want to tell me to be a paper statement. Yes. So you should step up.
Okay, more headlines still coming to you from the Daily Trust newspaper on Global Morning. As it is right now, the big story on the Daily Trust newspaper says the kicker is Zamfara boat Mishap. Then the big story itself says 10 bodies recovered, 22 still missing in a boat Mishap. Then I have about 3 riders to that story that will be taken right away. And the first rider says a search extended to neighboring villages. The second one says survivors, victims, families speak. Then the last rider says how accident happened. Eyewitness is the one saying that the issue of boat mishap, we've had that situation over and over and over again. This is not the first time that it's happening. Do you think the fault, because lives have been lost in the process?
Yes.
When this thing happens, lives have been lost. There was a time a popular Nollywood actor died because of this same thing, even though theirs was the fact that they were shooting movies. In Niger State, we've heard of both mishaps severally, in Taraba State and other parts of the country. Now it is in Zamfara State. Looking at what is happening in the country right now, because whether you like it or not, there is hunger. A lot of people are going through so much, and these things are still coming up to add to the trouble that we have in the country. Do you think there is anything that the authorities can do to stop this?
I think it's a gradual call to action. We have many government agencies that regulate the water system. We have the Ministry of Water Resources itself. We have NIWA, we have NIMASA, we have all these agencies. I think when it's happening like this, it must not become a national or a regular routine before agencies bring up precautionary motives or precautionary plans and actions. The NIWA, which is the Inland Waterway Agency, what are they really doing? We have few states that are along the water line. We have few water transportation system. I think NIWA should step up to the responsibility of their creation. When you hear NIWA, to some persons, it's just like a new creation that is coming from nowhere. They are not living up to expectation. NIWA should wake up. How does it cost? What does it cost to provide water transportation resources? What does it cost to bring up extension workers to enlighten the people using this water system, to train sailors? What does it take? When you go to some riverine area that use water transportation, you hardly find life jackets. So these are major. Some persons just jump into sailing, water transport business without even understanding the basic rudiments.
Maybe they believe they can swim.
Yes, because they were born close to the river. They know how to swim. They know how to paddle the boat. They feel yes, they have become experts in that sector. So they now practice their expertise with people's life.
All right.
So I think NIWA, the Ministry of Water Resources, should come up with innovative ideas and possible solutions to avert this, because I think water transportation also is a major boost to the national economy if they really want that sector to bloom.
All right, if they want that sector to boom, what they need to do is to put more measures in place. More still coming to you from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. This one says Yahaya Bello remains wanted, not with us. The EFCC is the one saying that, and the details you can find on page 7. Then this one says a hardship, that's the kicker. Bafarawa donates 1 billion naira to Sokoto people. Then the last rider from here says a court reminds farmer for the filing stepdaughter. that it's so bad. That is so bad. All right, the last I will be taking from the Daily Trust before we move to the next point of call is this. Transport fare hike. Low turnout of students 1 week after school resumption because of the price of transportation. The price of fuel has affected almost every sector, including students who are supposed to get back to school 1 week after resumption. Students are nowhere to be found. What are we talking about? We talk about the deteriorating state of the educational system in the country. Now, this is it. One of the things that Nigerians are always worried about. You hear people talk about fuel all the time. Why is it like that? This is because fuel is one thing that affects one commodity that any negative effect from that axis affects almost everything. Now students are not going to school because the fuel hike, transportation is on the rise. On a daily basis, you just get to the road and you see
things differently.
Things change. In places like Lagos, if rain starts falling, the prices of fare changes. Okay, so students are no more in school. Do you see this having any negative effect on the educational system?
Yes. The oil and gas sector is now the major decider of Nigerian economy. Because in every basic need of a man per day is tied to a basic motivator or factor attached to fuel. You see, the cost of living is now actually killing the living. The transport fare, even within Abuja alone, has skyrocketed to above 50%. You imagine the student who is to resume with a high cost of transportation from Abuja to the nearest states. From Abuja to, for example, Nasarawa state, it has doubled. Imagine a trip that is supposed to be naturally 2,500 before has now become 5,000, 6,000. That is about 100% increments. From Abuja to Kogi State is over 6,000 plus. So where can a common Nigerian who is a student, depending on his father or mother to go to school, earn this amount? That is just for transportation, not for the daily needs in school, not for the school fees, not for the daily activities in school. And you also be hearing that schools will want to increase their tuition fee. You see, Nigeria is no longer the Nigeria we wanted it to be, or we have dreamt to be, or the story that was told to us by those who lived the real Nigeria. Our educational system is highly deteriorating, from lack of interest to factors that are also causing the deterioration in interest. Students no longer want to go to school again because what is the essence of going to school? When
I hear when people say school, they don't get
the pidgin language of school and scam. You see, the uneducated ones are now succeeding while the educated ones are not. You can imagine a nation where we're only fighting for increment in national wage and there is no employment. I can tell you that over 5 years, 6 years, even before this present government, there have not been employment. So those who have been graduating from that time till now, where are they? They're unemployed. So the unemployed, they are even more than the employed. Meanwhile, those who are wanting to go to school to escape illiteracy, to become educated for national building and manpower development, are not even given the access to go to school again. It is technical that petroleum has made our institutions to be shut down because students are no longer having the willpower to go to school. You have been given admission, you don't have transport. You have been given admission, you can't meet up with the daily needs of the school. So why are you going to school? And those who want to go to school, that's why there's higher rise in the social crisis, the modern trend of the Yahoo business, and every other things. So I think the government should really...
That's not the best way to go because people who... I keep saying this. There is always an option, a positive option to everything, depending on the individual. You know, when people involved in cyber crimes, whatever they call it, when they involve in cyber crimes, instead of doing things legitimately, but because of greed. You know, so many times these things, a lot of things are being pushed to the government, that the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that. But then what about the people itself? I think there's always also a two sides to every coin. The people also have a role to play, because by the time greed you put greed forward first, you front the greed and selfish interests, which make people go into a cyber crime, like you made mention of it, Yahoo and all of that. I didn't know other viable enterprising skills that these people can actually acquire, even if you're in school. I think wisdom demands now, looking at the happenings, the societal issues that we have, the economic issues that we have. I feel it's well. I'm saying this because you are the national secretary of
all polytechnics.
All polytechnics in Nigeria. Don't you think it will be better for more sensitization for people who are even in school or out of school already to acquire skills, okay, so that they can even work even on site or remotely? Because a lot of companies are actually looking for people who are skilled. There was a time that it's been said that some Nigerian graduates are not employable, especially people who don't have skills, because some persons go to school, they go through school and school don't go through them. What would you have to say in that aspect?
You see, the problem we have in Nigeria is all about we have glorified grammars to celebrate situations. First of all, where there's no light, there's darkness. So where the government is not providing a platform for students or for graduates to be gainfully employed, or at least be semi-employed, you see that whatever comes their way, they will do. When you are telling a youth not to be involved in cyber crime, and the government is not investing or providing opportunities and platform for the youth to be gainfully employed, how do you get it? Even if we talk of entrepreneurial skills, is it easy to get the fund to go and learn this skill?
No, there are a lot of. I can even maybe subsequently dish out some of.
That is the one at your disposal.
Digital skills.
Yes, but before you go and learn skill, for example, you go and learn sewing, hairdressing, and all this at the local level.
Digital marketing.
Somebody that wants to teach you digital marketing, a firm that wants to teach you digital marketing, data analysis, and all sorts, will not just give it to you free of charge.
No, we have some that are free. Right?
Even if they are free, it is not to the entirety of the jobless people. What I'm trying to say is that, yes, we have some persons who are in their own volition, out of charity, doing that for the people. But the government have the social responsibility of upholding the welfare of its citizens. And if you don't want cyber crime to exist, let us first of all remove the name cyber crime and start calling it stealing or 419. Because when you say I'm involved in cyber crime, I think to those who are not even who do not understand the word cyber crime, would think I'm a cyber scientist or a computer engineer. You see, that's a glorified name for it first. Let us change it from cyber crime to stealing or 419. Then, let me ask you, the EFCC have been parading thousands of persons, all in the name of cyber crime, advanced fee fraud, and whatever name it has been called. How many have been prosecuted?
If they are prosecuted,
I can tell you that when they arrest you, that you are a Yahoo boy in that name. When they arrest you, they take you to their station, 1, 2, they go through your phones and they do this. After 2, 3 days, you are being released to come back. And when you come back, you are still with the instrument of your brains.
What that means is, I know some persons may have been prosecuted in the past. Some persons sent to court. You know, the court decide in most of these crimes. But I'm talking about that. I know you wouldn't encourage cybercrime.
Not at all.
Okay, so you talked about the fact that there is no enabling environment, but I think our viewers can actually hear us loud and clear now that there are a lot of opportunities on the internet. The internet space is so big where you can learn so many things on your own. whether or not you have the capital. Because a lot of people make calls. A lot of people are on social media doing jamborees instead of channeling that energy towards positive things. But because of this greed of get rich syndrome, get rich quickly syndrome, become an issue. So as it is right now, what would you have to say to students who are listening to you right now as the General Secretary of the National Association of Polytechnic Students? Because this headline is very catchy. I really wanted us to talk about it because the increase in cybercrime is becoming something else. And for the fact that the issue of fuel hike is stopping people from going to school now is another problem on its own.
Yes.
Then I think it will be wiser if you convert your disadvantage to an advantage, even though it's not proper for people to stay out of school because of fuel hike. We know the government needs to do something in that
Very important.
Very important. We've already talked about that, and I think the government is working seriously towards that direction. So what would you want to say to people who are meant to take advantage of the internet space positively, but then doing it negatively? Because you can, when you get on YouTube, you learn so much. I'm not trying to make an advert for YouTube. You go on social media, there are people who are giving out these skills, even though there are others who will actually ask you for stipends or something before you are being taught. So what would you have to say about that?
I think it's a call for action. And I want to use this opportunity to also say that if there are investors in these skills, if there are those who really want to help the Nigerian youths in these skills, they can easily reach out to us. We can provide an enabling environment, regardless of the distance anywhere in Nigeria. We can provide an enabling environment. We have institutions spread across Nigeria. If it's an environment you want, if it's a classroom, an auditorium, a hall, anywhere you want to reach out to Nigerian students, we can. You see, nation building is not an individual or a government team. It is a collective effort from both the government, the individual, institutions, parastatals, men of goodwill, and so. So I think for we to have a safe Nigeria, because a threat somewhere is a threat everywhere. This cybercrime that is coming up, I think we need to declare a state of emergency on it before it escalates. The Economic and Financial Crime Commission, which is solely responsible to curtail, ameliorate, if possible, these social vices, should also come to the responsibility of doing the needful. They should organize programs across youth organizations. Call, not only when they see politicians, we only hear FCC running after politicians, running after this, running after that. No, the politicians were once youth before they became politicians. So when you start from the grassroots, you know the root cause and you know the problem, I think it is necessary to cut it from the roots so that it won't escalate to the major point of it. So I am also putting this call to the Economic and Financial Crime Commission to organize sensitive programs to curtail these issues.
All right, as it is right now, it is still Global Morning on Global Television, and we are looking at the pages of the newspaper. This morning, right in my front here is The Nation's newspaper, where we're talking about issues that is bothering Nigerians as it has to do with the pricing of the PMS, petrol to be specific, fuel price high, which has stopped students from going to school. All right. As it is right now, still from The Nation's newspaper, our time is winding up, but then let's look at this. Abure is the one saying this: those who begged us for tickets now fighting us. This is coming from Abure. Those who begged us for tickets are now fighting us. There is no doubt that there is a fight, there is misunderstanding, challenges in most of the parties right now.
Yes.
PDP, APC, nothing more. Even in APC, then you talk about Labour Party. Now, what would you have to say about this statement quickly?
I think the issue of Labour Party is an internal affair or internal crisis. But you see, at times when politicians wants to deceive us, they make their personal interests look like a national interest for we to sympathize alongside. Yes, there's an allegation on him that there has been embezzlement and this. You should first of all clear his name. The presidential candidate of the party, yes, who has been on the page of a saint or a clean man, have not in time past or since the presidential election been indicted in any misappropriation or any negative ill. So I think there's a contrast between good and bad in this claims. The former national chairman was suspended, or I don't know the name that is best described of it, but I think Abure should first of all sit down to clear his name of the debt that has been robbed on him. Then he should come out as a national man to start fighting the institution that have robbed him of that mud.
Okay, let's talk about the People's Democratic Party. We just finished talking about Abure now, the Labour Party. There is this saying, the big story on the nation's newspaper this morning, which says PDP governors split over bid to sack party chair, Damago. There is this problem. This problem has been there. Now there is a splitting, okay, in PDP. What do you think about this? Because what Nigerians are even thinking is how these parties can form a merger or probably put their houses in order. Apart from the G5 governors, the problem in PDP, the Wike faction, the Atiku faction that was there. Now, this issue is coming up. What do you think these people should do, and how do you feel this issue can be handled amicably so that everyone can focus on 2027?
The People's Democratic Party used to be an enviable political party to many of us while we were young. But what we have found in the People's Democratic Party now is no longer a party of ideology that we used to know. It's now a party of people coming together to look for where to grab power, if I may say. The People's Democratic Party should really sit down and understand what's happening. The elders are sitting and watching. The younger ones are in the field fighting. Is it that there's no connection of dots between the elders and the youths in the party? Not the youths in age grade, the youths of the now generation on the field. Because the persons that ruled the nation between 1999 or takeoff of democracy to the breaking season of the People's Democratic Party were experienced politicians, technocrats, and of good standing in the society. But what we are saying now is in a party that is not ruling but is the second force, is now having a major crisis even than the ruling party. All this is just a signal to the party have now come to a point where they are only looking for how to grab power. There is no common interest, there's no common ideology, there's no common factor binding them together. And those who have this common factor, this common ideology are just sitting and watching. They are just members of a political party just to see and observe how it goes. So the truth is that the People's Democratic Party should really sit down, go back to the drawing board, take the mantle of leadership to the table of those who have experience, who've really formed the party, who understand how it should be. Not this one accusing this person today, this person accusing this person. It won't work. And if the People's Democratic Party really wants to get it right, they should go back to the drawing board. But I can offer them consultancy for free if they want.
All right. Agada said he can offer consultancy for free. I think they have a lot of people they are consulting with right now. But then I think they are working towards how this can actually resolve. All right, let's go on a quick break. When we return, we will be making way for the discussion proper. still the newspaper headlines review from me and, of course, Comrade Agada right here. But as it is right now, we are looking at so many major issues, and there is a concern about the crisis in the various political parties. But then, we're talking about PDP right now. We finished talking about the statement that came from Abure. People that begged us are now fighting us. Then in PDP, there is a fight. But then, looking at the Damagu case in PDP, this is something that can be settled amicably. Don't you think this is an internal crisis, whether you like it or not? But then, if the crisis escalates, it will speak well of the People's Democratic Party. We feel the Nigerians are saying maybe the fathers of the party can do something, come together to iron out this issue. Or you think this is beyond the founding fathers of the People's Democratic Party?
It can never be beyond. The founding fathers have the vision of the party, the mission, and where they want it to be. So if you neglect the elders, you know, the youths are full of energy, but the elders are full of wisdom. And there's an adage that says that no matter how new the clothes of a youth may be in numbers, it can never outweigh the rags of an elder. That means wisdom cannot be measured with that of the elder. You see, the problem we have in PDP is a problem of power play and pride. Everybody in the PDP are big boys, they are big shots, so nobody wants to drop his or her ego for the other. And there must be a give and take negotiation even within a party before you can get a good national outlook. Only the People's Democratic Party have many factions, the Wike faction, the Atiku faction, the Damagu is there, the North Central, different caucus. You see, when there are many loads in a boat, the boat is tend to sink, especially when it is being paddled with an inexperienced or a near fulfilled experienced sailor. So I think the People's Democratic Party, the advice I'll give to them, even while I'm offering myself as a free consultant to them, should first of all sit down and understand where their problem started from. Honor should be given to who is due, respect should be reciprocated, and fundamentals should be observed.
Okay, let's quickly look at this one now. Kogi police sacks Randy lecturers as OAUTH remove office beds. This is on one of the pages of the newspaper, the Guardian newspaper. The activities of lecturers in polytechnics, monotechnics, universities is becoming something else. And so good. Sometimes you don't even know who to blame. Some people said the lecturers are not doing well. Other persons will tell you the students are the ones causing this problem. You as the someone, you are a leader in that aspect. What do you think is the cause of this problem, and how do you think it can be handled?
Evil is evil, irrespective of the doer. And good is good, irrespective of the doer.
We're talking about Kogi State.
Yes. The lecturers or a lecturer who is involved in harassment or such should be shown the way out. Because in an academic institution, like a tertiary institution, the certification given to a student is on academic excellence and morality. So when a lecturer who is lecturing for academic excellence, when you fail his or her course, you won't be able to graduate, should also uphold the morals and standards of uprightness or decency, that you shouldn't go into harassment with a student. What is then the need of certifying somebody of good moral conduct when you as a lecturer imparting knowledge does not have a good moral standing? So I think there is a contrast of operation. So I think an erring lecturer who is involved in harassment of students, sexual harassment, and the sorts of it. I think it is even embedded in the student handbook or the code of conduct or code of service of the institution setting it up. So it is just a penalty for, we shouldn't make it look glorified that somebody is being victimized or somebody is trying to winch hunt anybody. No. The rector did not, the rector, the VC, the provost, the principal did not write the standing documents that governs the institution. He is just acting in that line. So, and the rector, the VC, the provost did not tell you as a lecturer to go and be involved in sexual harassment of a student. Before you say it's a witch hunt, you will start giving it name. You see, when we are wrong, we should admit that we are wrong. When we are right, we should admit that we are right. I am not also saying that the student does not have their fault. You see a student wearing a miniskirt to a lecturer's office with ulterior motives. Yes, that is the temptation. But as a lecturer, that you have your stand, I think you should be able to resist, or let me use the biblical term of flee away from evil as a lecturer. So we shouldn't try to put blames. It is normal that a student coming to school is coming to learn, not only in academics, but in moral upbringing. So you as a lecturer who is at advantage level to correct the ills of the society should not take advantage of the naiveness of the student and harass he or she.
All right, you shouldn't take advantage of the naiveness of the students, and the students should not also pose as threats to these lecturers who are also man, they are human too. But then I think this practice is becoming rampant in universities and other institutions in the country. I think the authorities should rise to the occasion. Like Agada said, no matter, irrespective of who is involved, that person should face the wrath of the law. Whatever the law says, that person should face it squarely, so that we can sanitize our institutions of these acts. And of course, this is going to be the size of the newspaper review on Global Morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Agada, for coming. This is Agada Noah. He is the National Secretary of the National Association of Polytechnic Students, and he is also a public affairs analyst. It's so good to have you on Global Morning today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you everyone for being with us. A Global Morning still continue after this break. Don't forget that the discussion segment will be coming with another guest as a deacon will take over from here. And before we go, let me just let you know that you can also be an advocate of something good, of the positive things that we need and expect in the society. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you again before the end of Global Morning. Of course, Michael and I will be rounding off the Global Morning, but then discussion segments coming after this timeout. Don't go away.
Thank you.